let's throw a leg over Yamaha's chain-driven, big-bore naked bike, the FZ1. Just one look at this baby and you know that this bike means business. This fully revised open-class sports machine uses the same liquid-cooled, fuel-injected big-bore power plant as Yamaha's racetrack-ready R1. However, Yamaha tells us that the new FZ1 motor has a little less compression than the R1 and has been slightly detuned in an effort to provide more torque for the real world, namely the street. Well, maybe Valentino Rossi can tell the difference, but me? All I can say is that this thing packs a punch. As your eyes continue to wander over the FZ1, you'll notice one other big revision. The chassis is now aluminum rather than steel. So too the sculpted braced swing arm. And again, although the frame looks like its R1 spec, the steering geometry is a little less aggressive in an effort to improve the FZ1's handling manners out on the open road. Speaking of the open road, that's where this week's guest rider Ron Peters sampled the FZ1. We figured he'd be the perfect guy for this week's impression since he's the proud owner of a slightly older version of the FZ1. So Ron, this is obviously a brand new redesign for the FZ1 and it's pretty exciting to look at it when they first rolled it out. I'm curious to know what your first impression was when you rode it.
Well, actually, the first time that I laid hands on it and moved it around in the driveway, I was amazed by how light it is. It's about 15 kilograms lighter than the FZ1 I'm presently riding now,
right,
which is the older style. And in addition to how the bike feels in the driveway, when you ride it, it feels a good deal more nimble.
Can you tell much difference between the version of the engine that you have and this one?
Well, the fuel injection has made the engine quite different also. They've got more horsepower from it, but it's all at the top end. The mid-range has sort of suffered a little bit, which is to say it's not slow when it's down low, but if you were going to pass in a hurry, you'd probably want to downshift one. On my old bike, I don't bother.
Right.
Which makes it a little easier if you're on a long trip. It doesn't sort of wear you out over the day.
Right.
You just put it in top gear and away you go.
It is a wonderfully smooth power plant, though.
Yeah, it is. It is. And that hasn't changed.
How did you find the transmission and the clutch?
About the same as my bike. It's probably the smoothest cable-operated clutch in the business. Certainly no hardship there. The transmission is about the same as the one on my bike, but I notice when it goes into first gear, it still clunks.
Right.
But I think they're tough as nails, the gearboxes on these bikes.
How about the brakes? What did you think of the brakes?
Brakes are great. They're good on the old one. They're good on this one too. The fact that it's lighter is only going to improve the braking.
Right.
No question about that.
So lots of performance for a performance bike.
Yeah. This would make a great track day bike. It would be fantastic.
You know, inline fours, especially when you get into the leader category, they've got a great snarl to them, a great howl. How is that pipe in terms of the sound of this machine?
It's pretty quiet until you grab a big handful, and then you're so busy you don't really notice. The top end rush is phenomenal on these things, and that's their claim to fame. The R1 motor is really got it on the top end.
Right.
And this is the R1 motor, complete with fuel injection. It's all business. The upside down forks, obviously, you can clamp them over a wider diameter,
right,
and that just makes the whole front end more rigid.
Right.
The rear suspension feels about the same. I don't know where you'd put luggage on this. I'm always off somewhere on mine, but this is a very different animal.
So I guess in terms of sport touring, they've leaned a little more towards the sport,
yeah,
a little less towards the touring.
They have definitely put a sharper point on the FZ1.
How do you like the look of the bike?
It really ties in more with the R1 sport bike now. The styling is definitely patterned that way, and I think for the kind of performance it now produces, the styling is spot on.
So what about the cockpit layout and sort of the user friendliness of this area here?
Well, the bars, I like the spread on the bars. I like the angle of them. If they were a little bit higher, that would be better for me, but I think for the kind of bike they produced here, they're good. Reasonable wind protection from the windshield. There again, a little bit higher one wouldn't be a bad thing. Good view in the mirrors, good cockpit. The office is good.
The office is good. What did you think of the fit and finish?
Well, I think it's exceptional. I particularly like the aluminum frame painted black. It looks like a sport bike now.
So Ron, we know you own a 2002 FZ1. You were all ready to hate this bike. I know why, because nobody wants to have to sell their old bike and move up to a new bike.
Yeah, I wouldn't say hate it, but I was prepared to say that it wasn't as good as mine.
Right. Now you've had a chance to spend a day or so with this machine. What do you think? Can we convince you to step up?
Would I buy one? In a perfect world, you bet. It's a great bike, Dave. I really enjoyed it.
Well, we enjoyed having you out here today. Thank you very much, Ron.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for helping us out.